Honorable Eminences, Excellencies, Venerables, dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, these days we all feel sad to see the conflicts that are still going on in many places in the world, and that many of those conflicts bring religion as an element. And even in many of the conflicts that is happening, religion is function as a weapon or as a base of group consolidation against others. And we feel sad about that now, and we feel that it is absolutely inappropriate to use religion in that way. The thing is, ladies and gentlemen, some decades ago, maybe a century ago, or some centuries before, in the era of our grandfather, our great-grandfather, because I can see that most of us here were born not longer than maybe 70, 60, 70 years ago. But our grandfathers and our great-grandfathers, they experienced a time, an era, where conflicts were normal. They experienced an era when it was normal to use religion as the base of conflict. We can see in history, for centuries and even for thousands of years, human beings engage in identity conflicts against each other, and each group consolidate on the base of religion. We also know from history that there was an era in human civilization that destroying each other, enslaving each other were normal. Disregarding the rights of others was normal back in that time. And even the discourse in our respective religion saw that it was normal back then. In Islam, for example, back in the Middle Age, the discourse was seeing others as subject of suspicion, subject of discrimination, and even enmity. And it was there in the religious discourse. And I would guess that the same case also with the other religion, the discourse in all religion. Since this construct of of the law of the jungle in the past, when the powerful can just destroy the powerless, exploit the powerless without any objections from any direction. We know from history that construct then led to a great global catastrophe. The world experienced two great wars, the World War I and the World War II, which took unprecedented casualties as the cost of the war. In the World War I, there were more than 21 million lives were lost. And in the World War II, approximately 85 million lives. With this tragedy then, thanks to God, the international leaders were thinking about the need for a consensus to end the threat of this kind of conflicts. That's how they achieved this international consensus by signing a charter in 26th of June 1945 in San Francisco, that then is called the United Nations Charter, and followed by the activation of United Nations organization. And shortly after that, in 1948, followed with UN resolution on Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All these consensus were meant to end the catastrophe caused by conflicts and wars. Religions or religious leaders were not too much involved in the initiative for those consensus, those international consensus. When the UN Charter was signed in 1945, it was the political leaders and none of religious leaders involved. And until now, even, there is no religious leaders invited to join the signing of this charter, this very important charter. And maybe because of that, then, it's been so slow that religions internalize or adopt the principles that have been consented by international leaders, international political leaders, with this charter and UDHR resolution. But because of this consensus and the efforts by international community to promote it all this time, that the principle of peace and harmony and justice and equal dignity among human beings, then are mostly accepted by our global society. And because of that, then now we share like a new feeling about conflicts and the function of religion and the interaction between different groups, and align with the principle and the consensus, which is equal dignity, compassion, justice, harmony, and so forth. But because these ideas are not yet settled or integrated into the authoritative discourse of our religion, then we still see up until now group of religion, group of people using religion as the justification, as the reason to wage enmity and conflict and communal hatred against each other. I told you before, Indonesia has been famous as a country of tolerance and harmony under the principle of Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, as mentioned by His Excellency President Jokowi this morning. Unity amidst diversity. But just a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, on the evening of Saturday, it was happened that a group of Muslims clashed with a group of Christians in one part of this country, in Bitung. And the issue that triggered the clash, the conflicts, was this Israeli-Palestinian problem. So it was a conflict between a group of pro-Palestinian Muslims against pro-Israeli Christians. So there are still people who want to bring religion into conflict like this. And they truly feel that it is a religious obligation, according to whatever they understand from the respective religious teachings, that they are obliged to engage in such conflicts against the other side. So my point is that we are still facing a big challenge here. If we want a solution for all this ongoing conflict that still happening here and there, in Middle East, in Sub-Sahara, in Europe, and so forth, everywhere in the world, any solution would need a framework for it. What would be the framework for solution? Something that makes, any strategy, any efforts workable, doable, and decisive, can reach a decisive result. if you look at what we have now, we can see actually we already have in our hands an existing framework all this time, which is the new international consensus after the World War II, namely the United Nations Charter, United Nations Organization, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It can be the framework, and it is workable if then everybody, every actors involved in these international affairs would really consistent in implementing the principles in this consensus, would really consistent in applying this consensus in our international affairs. The fact that we are still seeing problems keep going on up until now because there are still some actors in the global dynamics that have the interest to disregard or even undermine the principles in this international consensus. So the way I see it, what we need now is a strategy to strengthen this framework, this already existing framework. How we can work to push all the actors involved in international affairs to truly abide by this consensus. Well, as religious leaders, as the bearers of religious authorities, we may say that this consensus was initiative coming from beyond religious environment. It was the political leaders who made the consensus, not the religious authorities. But I would say it is absolutely easy for us from the perspective of our religion, our respective religion, whatever religion it is, that the principles that were consented by these international political leaders actually are in line with our beliefs, in line with the principles, the fundamental teachings of our religion. Because we know that religion, our religion, are not just about the right God against the false God. Religion is not just about the right beliefs against the wrong beliefs. But religion is also about a grace to help human beings to manage their lives into a better and more noble condition. So since the principles that are consented in this international consensus are meant to start a new order that will enable human civilization to work together toward a better and more noble condition, then I believe it is easy for us to agree also that these are all in line with the fundamental teachings of our religion. And looking at the situation, the need, the desperate need of our international community to see a path toward solutions, then I would say it is our responsibility as religious leaders, as the bearers of religious authority, to mobilize whatever resources in our hands, as long as our hands can reach, to mobilize toward the strengthening of the framework that we already have as international consensus, to strategize the decisive actions toward solutions. This gathering today is meant for us not just to articulate our feelings, not just to spread messages, not just to proselytize the beautiful teachings of our religion, but we have in mind when we initiate this gathering that we want to see a true desire to act, a true desire to act and to act together among religious leaders and authorities, because it is also under the responsibility of religions to see a better fate for the future of human civilizations. Thank you. Wallahul muwaffiq. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.